Hi, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Innovate-A-Thon Discussion, where we cover everything going on in the world of innovation, creativity, workforce advancement, entrepreneurial thinking, and enabling the next generation to do good in the world. I'm Nataly Ghiotto, and I work in partnerships and outreach, and I contribute to social media as well. Today, we're going to explore interesting topics with mentors, students, and innovators who are shaping the future. At Innovate-A-Thon, we connect university students from diverse academic disciplines from universities all across the world, and we work with industry professionals, community leaders, and philanthropists to collaborate on solving real world problems through a series of 3-week Innovate-A-Thon sprints. Students work alongside these industry experts to develop technically sound and economically viable solutions to different problems, whether it's advanced recycling, pedestrian safety, water reclamation, prosthetics for developing regions, or battery rechargeables. We do it all here. And today we are thrilled to welcome our past Innovate-A-Thon team. We have the red team from a past Innovate-A-Thon that we did. So we have Denise Caldwell, Alexander Nava, and Mahek Parvez. And Mahek and Alexander, they've actually participated in 2 Innovate-A-Thons now. So we're just going to kind of get to know the background of everything that they did on their teams and kind of get into it today. So guys, if you wanted to go ahead and introduce yourselves, you could do that now.
Hello, my name is Alexander Nava. I'm a chemical engineer over at Poly Pomona in California. So yeah, as she said, I did participate in 2 Innovate-A-Thons. I did the first one in Regenerative Agriculture, and then the second one we just did is battery marketing, of just changing the behavioral shift of using rechargeables rather than disposables, and it's been great so far.
Yep. So hi, my name is Mahek. I call myself an eco-innovator. The 2 innovatathons that I've been part of are the regenerative agriculture and the battery, just like Alexander. Um, in terms of my academic career, I'm in my freshman year and I'm doing ECE at Purdue University. And innovatathons almost are the most exciting part of each month for me. So every time we have an innovatathon, I get all excited to ideate again. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Denise Caldwell. I'm a botany and plant pathologist here at Purdue University. I'm in my 5th year of my PhD, and I was part of the regenerative agriculture um, embedded ideation that we did together with Alex and Mahek.
Thank you guys so much for those introductions. I always forget how the very different backgrounds that you all have. I forget that you're a freshman Mahek and you're a PhD student, Denise, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys just all surprise me every time with how smart you guys are. So what kind of motivated you all to take part in the Innovate-A-Thon from the first session that you guys did, Mahek and Alexander and Denise, to the second one that you guys did, Mahek and Alexander? What made you guys want to come back to it, and what made you guys want to do it in the first place?
I guess I could start. So what made me want to come to Innovate-A-Thon was actually you, Natalie, from first hitting me up in Handshake and LinkedIn, just from messaging me about another project I was working on. So after you had messaged me, I looked into Innovate-A-Thon, and as I'm getting through my education, I'm still looking through internships, trying to get every project into my resume. So I thought this would be a perfect opportunity. The main thing was just looking at it being agricultural based while I'm a chemical engineer. So I decided, I could probably still contribute. So I made the jump. I saw you guys accept the engineers, and the project went great. So I'm glad I did.
I'm glad we found you guys too. Sometimes I'll reach out to students on Handshake, LinkedIn, and email, and I'm like, I hope they want to join and don't think I'm annoying them by emailing them too much.
No, it's great. It's going to open opportunities for students all the time.
I'm glad. And Mahek and Denise, why did you guys want to do it?
Personally, for me, it was very close to something that I was doing outside of school. So I'm working on a cooling methodology that's meant for agricultural storage. So I was looking at post-harvest losses, and for me, regenerative agriculture would probably be the first aspect, meaning how to make the entire process before the storage sustainable. So for me, it almost felt like I was joining 2 blocks, and I would be able to build something out of that. So for that reason, I was very excited about the first one. The second one, I think, was related to a field that I wanted to explore. The battery industry is a very upcoming industry, and the thing is that the changes are so fast that I can barely keep up. So I thought that probably this would give me a chance, and the a directive to go towards understanding more, researching a little bit. And I would definitely say that it really did help, because I had to read about at least 10 to 15 papers to understand what was going on. And that kind of gave me the opportunity to update my knowledge on the entire industry. Yeah.
Yeah, this one was very different from the one we hosted last month. And we have one coming up next month, so look out for that one on Handshake as well, Mahek.
I'm actually excited about the next one because I've never thought about prosthetics at all. I'm someone who doesn't even use makeup. So for me, understanding psychology of why people use prosthetics and
Mhm.
what has the prosthetics industry been like so far. Since I come from an engineering background, I, as a person, do not have the opportunity to collaborate with people who are in the bio field, otherwise in school. And I think being part of a team that is already interested in prosthetics and is likely probably interested in some field of bio will open my mind up to different outlooks to life. So I think that's something I'm excited about.
Yeah, so this is gonna be, I believe, our second or third one that we've done on prosthetics, and it's so interesting. We actually have another podcast episode. I want to say it was like one of our first ones with Kevin Falk, and he was our mentor for the prosthetics one because he's actually an amputee, so he like uses the prosthetics like in his daily life. So that's always very interesting to me, like seeing how like he uses it, and he talked in the podcast that we went through about like the challenges and difficulties he faced and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see like the results that come out of this next Innovate-A-Thon. And
Honestly, he should be our audience at that point. We should be interviewing him when we're preparing for the Innovate-A-Thon.
well, actually, yeah, we have had students interview him before for the past prosthetics one that we've done, and he'll sit there and he'll chat with them for like 20 minutes or so, or he'll meet with them outside and he'll give them a lot of advice because he does give a lot of like background on what it's like to like use a prosthetic device and the challenges he faces and all that stuff that like I have no clue about, like, because I don't use prosthetics. So we
Yep.
definitely do bring in like a lot of good mentors for that one.
Yep.
So I actually did a boot camp with Bear a couple years ago where we ideated some ideas and we're trying to find a field solution for something. And I'm a person who likes to work cross disciplines, so not specifically just in plant science, but I like working with engineers and mathematics and all these other different disciplines that I don't have enough time to go out and be part of. I would really like to learn everything, but I just cannot possibly do it. And so I was really interested in this. And then I had an interview with Stephen. And when we were talking, I would just love the ideas and this idea that we would sit together with these people in different career paths where we could sit down and make up ideas and try to figure out a solution. I'm hoping that I get to do it in the future. I had a busy semester this term, so I couldn't do one right now. But I hope in the summer when you guys have another one, then I can contribute to that because I really enjoy it.
We do love our repeat offenders for the Innovate-A-Thon. Like we've had Oliver and Noah do like 4 and 5 each, and now they're mentors for it. So just keep coming back, guys. Keep coming back. Can you guys walk us through your experience like working together during the Innovate-A-Thon? And Mahek and Alexander, like walk us through the differences of like your team from the first time to your team through the second time. Because I know for the second one, you guys like weren't working together. We switch up the teams. We sadly don't let like people be working on the same teams after one just because we're like, you guys are get too good working together. You'll know everything together. So if you guys just want to give us a little bit of your background on how that experience was.
Yeah, so for basically just to start off with my experience with this team, it was great. Like everybody was so communicative. People wanted to meet rather than me working in other groups where people weren't too worried about meeting up and getting the project going. So that was very nice. And just I'd say our project was very Chem E based off their majors are different from their majors. So it was just really nice to see them kind of step up and willing to understand what was going on, engineering and scientifically wise, because, with it being very based on my major, I wanted them to make sure that they understand and be able to present the project correctly, which they did perfectly. So that was amazing. And the way they helped design the slides, because my designing of slides is not so good, I'd say. But with Denise specifically coming in and Mahek coming in to research, it's just it was a great experience with this team, which made me even want to come back even more. Which brings me up to this next Innovate-A-Thon. So this next Innovate-A-Thon, it was a little bit more unfortunate. Me and my partner, it was due to my busyness of just the end of my semester. I have senior projects and everything, but also just we didn't meet up once. His mic wasn't working in the first Innovate-A-Thon we met, and then he didn't end up coming to the second one, so that was even more lost time that we got. And just like through chatting together, he would take a while to message me back. Sometimes I would take a while to message him back. It was just communication was not there, which is part my fault, and then part his fault. So at the end, I ended up having to do the work myself to take care of this Innovate-A-Thon, which is unfortunate, but I was able to get it done. But so it just shows a difference in teams of how this first team I was in, everything went so great and so just it kind of fluidized well throughout the whole process. But in the second round, you're working with somebody different and it might not be the same. It might not go the same as it did the first round.
So kind of just like the importance of communication and like taking leadership within your team. Because one thing that I did like that you said was that your teammates kind of didn't have all the Mahek and Denise, they kind of didn't have all the experience because it was in your field. So you kind of stepped up into the role of, okay, here's where I can take charge and here's where I can like show them and teach them, where kind of in the second one, it was unfortunate that like your guys' team kind of played out as it did because of like all the technical issues and the like communication things and scheduling issues, but kind of just like that importance of like taking leadership and being able to come together and communicate with each other in like a way that you guys can have results. I like that. And Denise and Mahek?
So I know that anytime you start a collaboration, you're always trying to figure out where you fall and trying to find out who's going to lead, who's going to drive, who's going to support. And so that's always a very interesting thing. So when you're doing a short sprint like we do here, we're always just like jumping in, trying to understand each other. And what worked well in our red team is that we all had very diverse backgrounds. And so when we came together to ideate, Alex had an idea, Mahek had an idea, I had no idea. But I just kind of was like, okay, this is interesting because it's not my field. So I played more of a devil's advocate, and they would say a project, and I was like, no, what happens if? And so it was a really good back and forth that we could put these ideas in, and while they both had separate views of it, reading the statement that you guys asked for, how we could figure out how to get this into the project and talk about most in our strength. And also the workload that we divided it, these guys really worked hard, and it was really nice to see. And I mean, we didn't have our idea completely drawn up until that Sunday before we were getting ready to present. And so we didn't have it finalized. So we really powered through, and it was great to have support. And I'm strong on design. Alex had great ideas. Mahek is really good at literature. So we kind of just came together and it just powered through. It was amazing. It was wonderful to see, because that's what collaborations are all about.
Yeah, and one thing that I like that you brought up was the workflow that you guys had, because I know that can kind of be hard if you guys don't have like a good workflow of like, okay, this is what I'm doing, this is what you're doing, this is what our other teammates doing. And one other person who's also touched on that a lot is Oliver. Like he said that he makes sure from the get-go, like his team has a very clear understanding of like mapping out what it is that they're doing. And that's kind of what I see where the team succeed the most, when they have a clear plan of like, this is what I'm tackling, this is what you're doing, this is what we're doing. And I think that is a very good route to go, like getting it clear very early on of the things we need to do to succeed. So I really did love your guys' presentation too. Like, you guys did well.
And this team was great because we didn't have to assign anything. Alex is like, I want to do this, and Mahek's like, I want to do this, and I'm like, I'll do this. And so we just kind of all spoke up, and there was no parts that were left uncovered because everybody was so excited to participate. So it was really nice. It was wonderful working here.
Yep. So I think honestly, I can really feel a stark difference between the first Innovate-A-Thon with the red team, and then the next Innovate-A-Thon where I was with the green team, and I was part of it. But I think I agree with Alexander and Denise. There was some sort of ease in communication, and I think the first them being my first team really set the tone for the next the way I would approach any next team, because as soon as I came in, they made it very clear that I could change just about anything I wanted. And if they had written something that I didn't agree with, they were okay with me overwriting things. So there was barely any level of ego or any level of competition between it. We were just like, yeah, we want to get to a solution. If you can contribute to it, go for it. There was never a point where one person was like, no, no, you're not doing it right. There was no right and wrong, and I think that really set the tone for things. It made each of us feel comfortable just saying, oh, okay, so this may not be it, or this may be it, we can test it out. And also, I think one thing that we did well in the first team was also we understood what our strengths were. So when we did our introductions, we took, I think, 20 minutes to do our introduction, where we said, okay, this is what I do, this is what I'm used to doing, this is what I usually do. And the three of us understood which parts of the spectrum we were in. So I think if at all we took time on something, it was to come up with which one of our ideas we were going to choose. But once we decided that, it was so easy to say, okay, I already know your strengths, so hey, you can do this if you're comfortable with it, and then go ahead. But all of us were also very willing to work towards the project, because we felt very comfortable being in this team. And Denise, for example, sent us like a list of 10 papers right before any of us started reading. So then that was like, that almost set the tone. So once she sent it, we were able to tell that she was serious, and so it made it almost like a exciting thing to be more serious. So then, like, going in, reading those papers, getting an idea, and going ahead, I think that was a big deal. That made a lot of difference, at least for me. But that apart, I also think that the first Innovate-A-Thon, we worked on something in different stages. So I, as a freshman, came with a few ideas which are slightly novice. Then Alexander came with slightly more experience in understanding problem statements, understanding, okay, what are we trying to get to. And Denise came from a very strong research background. So when you combine all these three, you have new ideas, you have experienced ideas, and you have very deep understanding of why you're doing something. So that sort of teaming really opened my mind up to, okay, let's say I get into the industry, what am I going to be looking at, who might be able to fit this role of, here's what we can do, here's how deep we should go, and here's ideas that we should explore. It also gave me a idea of like where I would fit in somewhere. But that apart, in my second team, two of us were freshmen and the third one was a senior, and we had a very different outlook to things. So as freshmen, me and my other teammate, we were looking at ideas as a whole, but obviously we were finding it a little bit hard to fully interpret the problem statement. Of course, like, the problem statement was very clear. It was just that when we read it a few times, we thought of something a certain way instead of another way. And the person who was a senior in our project was slightly so she looked at things slightly more as a yes and no option. So when that came in, like, we were looking at things from different outlooks, so it got a little bit hard to look at things the same way. But eventually it came to a point where we understood her point, she understood our point, and then we came to a conclusion towards it. I still think every Innovate-A-Thon for me is another new learning opportunity. The first Innovate-A-Thon taught me how to say, okay, I'm going to be in an absolute supporting role. I feel like whoever's working on it has confidence in that, so I'm going to be supporting. Whereas in the second Innovate-A-Thon, it was more like, okay, let me help gather everybody together and help assign tasks to people according to our strengths. Something that I might do next Innovate-A-Thon is make our introductions longer, so that we can actually understand what someone's good at. And probably having made a little bit of a mistake with the interpretation of the second problem statement, next time when I go to the problem statement, I'm going to have a much clearer view, because our second team, after the Innovate-A-Thon, we took like about an hour to understand what we would have done differently and how we would have changed up our presentation. And I think being freshmen and being so new to the game gave us that level of liberty to say, okay, we've gone wrong. That's all right. If we need to get better, we need to change something. So let's learn what we need to change. So I think that was a very big learning curve.
That's funny that you mentioned that, because when we were in the middle of our presentation for our first one, I think we were all talking in the background because everybody else came up with an app and stuff, and we were like, well, maybe we did the problem statement wrong. Because we spent a long time trying to dissect what you guys were asking for, and when everybody kept presenting the same thing, and I was like, oh, we went way off target, but ended up that it was just a little bit different and a little bit more refreshing. So it was differences of opinions and views and problem statements that we kind of all contributed to. So I'm glad that we weren't too far off the field, just unique.
Yeah, so no, you guys like hit the mark. You guys were amazing if I was scoring, but I can't score. I'm too biased. No matter what I can't score.
Well, the experience was reward enough. I mean, we really lucked out with learning to work in a team and trying not to be the biggest person in the room, also not being the smallest, but supporting each other. And that's one of these things that you always want to take away, is the support of your other teammate, because it's not a competition between us. It's a competition between others, and we've got to have each other's backs. And that's really important when you're doing these kind of things.
Yeah. And I think for me, like, I'm obviously not participating anymore, but I wish. That'd be crazy. But no, I think like if you kind of take away like the competition aspect, I try to think of it like it's not like against like who's in first place, they did better, anything like that. Like I think it's about like learning and growing from the experience, and what can we take away from this? How can we use this like to kind of future our like further our career, whatever it is that we end up doing. Like maybe I learned from this and I decide, okay, well, I like prosthetics. That's something I'm going to be pursuing and going into. Because we have had students who like ended up like changing their major and being like, well, I like this like aspect of whatever it is that we're researching more. I'm going to try and pursue this. So I think it's just like making the most out of your experience, and like knowing like no matter what happens, I tried my best. My team did amazing work, and we learned something from this and we grew from it. One thing though that I do want to touch on that you brought up, Mahek, is your team was, I think your red team that you guys had, you were a very strong team in the sense that you guys worked like very well together, and you guys got a lot of like stuff that you collaborated on really well. What do you guys think made your team so strong? Because I've seen other teams where like they've communicated very well together, they had a lot of meetings, but I think your guys' team was very different, just in the sense that you guys, I don't know how to say, you guys worked very well together, and you guys didn't have like any communication issues. It seemed like you guys were very able to like just kind of work efficiently together on everything. So what do you guys think that was that you guys did differently?
I think we gave space to each other, and because Alex and I were alone at first, and then Mahek came in as an alternate, I believe. And so we had already been like going at it. And so when she came in, we opened our circle up to her. And instead of just like, no, Alex and I, we already got this, we just opened it up, and we became more inclusive for her to join into the conversation and bring her perspective, because she had a perspective. She does post-harvest stuff, and she provided papers, and and it wasn't that it was not a great idea. It was a great idea. And if we could, we were going to do a whole campus where we can incorporate these ideas. It would have been really magnificent. We just couldn't do that in 3 weeks. So it would have been really nice. But we make sure we extended the circle to one another. We were inclusive and brought in everybody's ideas. So what about you guys?
Yeah, kind of just like what Denise said. There was no, what you guys kind of push in the Innovate-A-Thon. No idea is a bad idea. So we made sure to kind of instill that in our group meetings, so that if anybody had anything to offer, any idea to bring to the table, it wasn't going to be shut down. It was going to be considered, and we're going to talk about why we're going to include it or why we're not going to include it. And with the post-harvest stuff versus what we did actually as a red team, um, like Denise said, it was just, we wanted to incorporate it all. It was just the amount of weeks we are given didn't allow for that. So what we did is we took probably the larger section of what we were doing, and then just kind of decided to focus on that as we had only 1 week left and to finish up the presentation. All right. So And then what we chose was kind of like the whole closed loop recycle, agriculture system, which I felt really represented what the problem statement and what you guys were trying to do.
I think absolutely I agree with both Denise and Alex. As someone who was probably like an hour, they were probably, I'm guessing, an hour into actually discussing with each other, and they had like a fair idea of how they were working with things. But for me, I know it sounds weird and funny, but it was the first time I was seeing a problem statement and having to ideate for a problem statement instead of just saying, okay, here is the problem, find a solution. Like it's usually a verbal thing, but now that we had it in paper, we could go back to something. It was the first time I was doing something like that, and to me, honestly, Denise and Alex were very supportive on saying, okay, if you don't understand this, this is what we think is going on, we can confirm once. It was always a process of iteration on our knowledge on how like solid we're being when it comes to approaching the problem statement. It was absolutely easy to say, I don't understand. I want to understand. Please help me understand. And it was very easy to make a mistake, and nobody was penalizing anybody for it. There was no level of ego in this team, and we all came from a place of enthusiasm. So me having worked in post harvest, and then Alexander having done a little bit of chemical engineering and specifically in agriculture, Denise in pathology, we came from three different fields in the same industry. So when it came to understanding each other's expertise, also it became an interesting process for us instead of something that was, oh, this person's doing whatever. Like, we were very interested in understanding what the other person was doing, why they were doing it. We actually connected as humans before connecting as teammates, and I think that was a very enlightening thing for me. I didn't know it would make such a big difference, but it did. And I think Innovate-A-Thon's presentations, it really set the tone for us as what we were going to be looking at this entire process as. We weren't told that this was a competition, and we weren't told that we had to limit anything. And as Alexander said, we need to limit our ideas. There was a point where all of us were making insane propositions, and that was genuinely, I in my opinion, the best part of the Innovate-A-Thon. It made me so happy that I could just say anything and get away with it. I could give someone like a moonshot idea, a $1 billion idea, and nobody would say no. And to me, that's insane. We did switch our potential project a lot, but I think when it came to the understanding that we had between each other, that we're not demeaning an idea, we are just prioritizing. So that was very welcoming. It became very easy to speak to the team. Yeah.
I love to hear all that. Gonna make me tear up. um, but I'm glad that you guys were like able to find like what worked for you, and that like it sounds like the like inclusivity of your teamwork and of your teammates is kind of what helped you guys flourish in this environment, because I know it is like very fast paced. You have a lot of work to do in a short amount of time. So it sounds like that is kind of what sets you guys apart from other teams, just kind of like giving that space to ideate and have the idea that no idea is a bad idea, even if it's silly. So I really like that. What advice would you give to future teams joining the Innovate-A-Thon, and just like future like individuals? Like, what would you say to them, and what would you tell them to make the most out of their experience?
I would say communicate, like communicate 100%. Like we discussed in this podcast already. Make sure every student knows what they're doing as soon as possible, and make sure you guys have a baseline idea. You don't have to have the actual idea. Obviously, we did it until the last week, but have a baseline idea of what you want to do so that people can start working, and you guys can start having kind of a foundation laid out as you head into the further weeks. And then also try to meet up outside of Innovate-A-Thon. That's the biggest thing that helped us. We met up a lot outside of just Innovate-A-Thon, and we were able to build our idea even more and reinforce what we were doing. So all of that really helps your team go up in this program.
I think I did a little bit of reflecting after my last Innovate-A-Thon, and so probably from yesterday's notes, I'm going to list out whatever I said to myself and my friend and I, meaning my teammate and I, who's now my friend, she and I discussed. So first is, we wish we had read through the entire 7 pages of our problem statement. Our problem statement was only 1 page, but there was the entire extra explanation. So I think we should have also focused on that. It would have taken a little bit of time, but had we understood the context from which the stakeholders were coming, Ed to Success was coming, we would have understood, what is expected of us. So that's number one. Number two is, I think we should have come in with our own ideas before we, loosely held ideas. I think Alexander was trying to say the same thing, where you have a loosely held idea, it may not be the final one. You may scrap your idea, throw your idea, or like moderate with your idea or modify it. But I think you should always come with an idea so that you can iterate on it and you're contributing instead of only gaining from it. So that was the second one. The third one was, we wish you had used the office hours to gain clarity, because I think a lot of the times the problem statements are not always clear, because if the world was a clear place, we wouldn't need solutions. So basically, we should have used the office hours to understand if our approach to the problem was right, because the problem can be interpreted in multiple ways. And the last thing, we should have taken the deliverables, understood why they want the deliverables from us, and then ideated accordingly. Yeah.
I'm kind of going to back up what both of these guys said. Leave your ego at the door. Know that when you come into something as a team, you do not know everything. And if you can't open up your thoughts and your views to the team and have open discussion and create ideas, you will never be successful in thinking of innovative ideas. You have to have other voices, other input, other inspirations from other people to drive science and innovation forward. You have to. And if you come in saying that's my idea or no way, it's going to be a very poor team. It is. And so if you can say, hey, I like your idea, I don't know enough, can you tell me more? And then just keep driving on like that. And then you can make amazing things like that. Really, really great things. If you can just put your pride aside and say, okay, let me listen to somebody else.
Thank you guys all for those. I appreciate those. Good feedback. One thing, Mahek, I love that you said this, because oh my gosh, we wish people would show up to office hours so much, because we're like, what if they need help with stuff? But then sometimes people just don't come. So I'm really glad to hear that feedback of like wanting to come to office hours, because we hold them sometimes. We're like, well, maybe we just shouldn't do this. Maybe it's not helpful. But I'm glad that, like, to hear that it can be helpful to students. I'm really glad to hear that. And I hope you guys all join another Innovate-A-Thon. I know you're graduating soon, Alexander. I don't know what your plans are after, but I hope you guys all join the one next month. Get accepted, apply to it for sure. Tell your friends about it as well. But I just wanted to say thank you all for coming on today. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. And thank you, everybody, for watching. I hope everybody gained something from this. And I hope you guys all watch again soon or join again soon. Bye, guys.
Thank you, Nataly.
Bye
Bye.
bye.
Thank you so much.
Nataly.